Good afternoon. Thank you for coming. Hope everyone enjoyed lunch and they're all ready for a little sleep this afternoon. But before you have your little sleep, perhaps you can listen to me for a few minutes. My name's Grant Tiller. I'm from RES Software. I've been at the company now for the last 7 years. I work for the product management team. The reason they've sent me is to use my ears. What I want to do is listen to you guys, and I spent the last day or so listening to some of the conversations, sitting in the sessions, and what we continually do at RES as a means to improve our products and hopefully make products that you guys like and find useful is listen. RES as an organisation was founded in 1999, but if I step back a couple of years prior to that, the founder of the company, Bob Janssen, was one of us. He was a techie geek dude with an issue. The issue that Bob had was with Citrix WinFrame. Who remembers WinFrame? Yeah, we've all got the scars, right? NT351, just as the world was switching on to Windows 95. So people were going into the office at Schenker Logistics where Bob worked. They were having the NT351 interface, program manager, file manager. They were going home and they were getting a funky start menu with lots of colours. They were getting shortcuts. They were getting a much nicer user experience. So what Bob did was looked at the issue and basically came up with a new skin for NT351. And the new skin, funnily enough, looked more like Windows 95. So for the user, they had more familiarity. They were more comfortable in their desktop. As a sideline to that, he started looking at some of the issues around the Citrix stability. Again, if you can remember back in the WinFrame days, more than 2 or 3 users on a WinFrame box and it would start to grind to a halt. We'd have to reboot it every day without fail. You press print and you would normally get a blue screen. And these were the kind of issues that Bob was running to on a daily basis. So he started developing some tools and scripts to help around these issues. Now, the community was really important at that point because the community were actually encouraging Bob to productize the tools and scripts that he was using at Schenker. So he went to the management team and said, I've got some cool tools and scripts. Can we sell them? And Schenker said, no. We're a logistics company, why would we want to do that? But there was a smart financial guy, and alongside Bob, with Schenker's blessing, they took the intellectual property that they developed, and RES Software was born. Now the understanding that we had with Schenker along intellectual property was that Schenker would always be a customer that never paid for software or support. So they were our first customer. Fast forward to today, and where we are 14 years later, we've got a couple more products in the portfolio, and I'll talk about those in a second, and we'll do some demos and stuff in a little while. We're still headquartered in the Netherlands. We've got a second headquarters in the US now, based in Philly. But importantly, we still listen. So we're still using our ears, we're still listening to what the market is doing, we're still listening to what you guys want to see from us. So thanks. We are community powered, and you know, big thanks to you guys for that. Keep up the good work. So workspace manager, workspace management, power fuse as we used to call it back in the good old days. The term workspace as it's become has changed quite a lot since more and more vendors have started using the terminology. So I just wanted to explain very briefly what a workspace is to RES. A workspace to us starts around a Windows desktop. And Windows desktop is merely the portal that the user works with to gain access to the services that they need to do their job. And by services, I'm referencing applications, data, printers and settings. Simple. The other thing we need to be mindful of is the context. And by context we mean who am I? So the identity of the user, where am I, the location of the user, so whereabouts on the network am I, what building am I in, what floor of the building am I in, what device am I logging onto, laptops, desktops, virtual desktops, remote desktops, and finally what time of day, what day of the week is it. The other thing we need to be mindful of is security, because there's an expectation to put a security wrapper around everything so we can be compliant. Now at RES, we feel that at that stage, if we are delivering the correct services to the user's desktop based upon the context, we can convert a static Windows desktop to a fully managed user workspace. Now the nice thing about that is 15 years later, Gartner and Forrester have started to agree with us. So if you look at the two lead vendors in this space, AppSense and RES, we've been working with workspace as a terminology now for many, many years. And we are always seen by the top analysts as a nice to have. But what we're seeing more and more is as the desktop projects become more and more complex, as we're working in a hybrid model and we're combining different types of desktop, different types of compute, the average number of devices per user is now into multiples rather than singles. Defining the workspace is becoming essential rather than a nice to have. So RES Workspace Virtualization and the virtualization suite, as we're going to have a look at in a second. The areas that we like to focus on are operational excellence. So there's something in that for the financial people within the organization. User experience, best possible performance on the user's desktop, standard look and feel, consistent look and feel, independent of quite complex IT projects that are happening in the background. And finally, best-in-class security, meeting compliance standards. Now, if we have a look at the standards, we have a look at the services that people are expecting today, and then we put in a traditional model, there's a lot of manual elements to managing this environment as it stands today. IT users and their desktops are being managed by IT departments. And the manual process associated with that is time consuming, is lengthy. Because there's manual process, errors can creep in. As consultants, we're being put under a lot of pressure as well to reduce our costs because we're working in a competitive environment. And one of the ways we feel we can help with that at RES is by looking at automation. So working with a context-aware workspace instead of a static desktop, asking for services through an IT store instead of calling IT departments and waiting forever, and in the background working with a series of automated IT tasks. So the automation framework, Automation Manager, the product name, allows IT departments to become much more efficient, to spend less time firefighting, giving them more time to innovate and help with some of the more complex transformation projects that are on the horizon. So with workspace virtualization, we're looking to achieve three things. We're looking to support three areas, three clear projects. Take, for example, Windows migration. The time bomb is ticking on Windows XP. A lot of people are using this as an opportunity to look at virtual desktop technologies. They're using this as an opportunity not only to migrate from Windows XP to perhaps Windows 7, but also using it as an opportunity to start considering application migration, application virtualization, so better ways of delivering access to resource. So let's have a quick look at what RES software can do and how the technology bolts together. So for many, or for every employee in an organization, life actually begins in a HR system. So typically, you know, in the real world, a HR system would be something like PeopleSoft, SAP perhaps. My example here is an Access database, only for me because it's lightweight and I can run it easily in my VMs. But what we're going to do here is actually create a new employee in the organization. So let's start with a new record. And Case, I'll take your details if I can. So this is where you're going to be in a couple of years. Where do you want to be based? Chicago? Save. So as an IT department, this is normally where I'll start getting bugged. I'll get a call from the HR guy saying, hey, Case is joining on Monday. He needs a desk. He needs a telephone. He needs a laptop. He needs an account. He needs access to this application, that application. Get on and do it. There'll be emails coming through. On a good day, perhaps there'll be a spreadsheet with this information. Now, one of the things we can do is use our Automation Manager technology to automatically take the fields from the back-end system, the HR database in this example, and populate runbooks. Now, we've got around about 150 canned tasks and queries in Automation Manager that allow you to rapidly do things like onboard users, create Exchange mailboxes, move the users in OUs, create computer OUs, manage compute devices. And I'll go through the list in more details in just a second. What you can see in this particular example, though, is I'm using the information from the HR system to populate 3 different tasks. I'm going to go to Active Directory and create a new account for Case. I'm going to go to my file server, create a home directory, share it, ACL it, and put some template content there. And finally, I'm going to go to my Exchange server and create a mailbox. And actually, in this example, after just a few seconds, we've got an account that we can actually log on with and start being productive. No call to the IT department from personnel. Completely automated process. So let's put our money where our mouth is then and start a session. And as we log on, what you'll see is Workspace Manager will start looking at the context of the user that's logging in. So who am I? I'm Case Baggerman, just for now. Where am I? I'm in the US. What office am I logging on from? What's my IP address? What's my IP range? What's my group membership? What's my OU membership? What am I? What device am I logging onto? What OS am I logging into? And finally, what time of day and what day of the week it is. Based on all that information, Workspace Manager can dynamically build the workspace or the desktop, which means Case can be productive. Hey, first time for everything, right? If we go to my computer, as you'd expect with any solution like this, we do all the drive mapping stuff. You can see there, you know, we can be productive. I've got the drives I need to do my job straight away. As I've said, I've already populated Case's home directory with some template material so he can be productive. And I've mapped his, through group membership, the right executive drive and the fact that he's coming in through the Chicago office. Now, one of the nice things we could do is link that back through, once again, to automation. So if I have a look at the executive drive here, you can see I've got some high quality graphics images, and right now Case has not got the rights to any application associated with those graphics files. And what we've done is, rather than giving a generic Microsoft error message, I can pop up a bespoke message explaining what's going on in this environment. It's suggesting that either he calls his line manager or he has a look in his service catalog to see if there's an application available. So what we're going to do here is just have a quick look in the service catalogue, and I can see sure enough that paint.net is an application that's available for request. So once again, self-service from the user perspective is actually starting an automation job in the background to provision that application. Paint.net is quite a small application, so I'm going to actually do an install. So the MSI file, the installer will take place. We're then going to dynamically do an update of the user's desktop, and you'll see that we've got a shortcut delivered to the desktop. There'll be a shortcut delivered to the start menu, so paint.net there, and sure enough we're also going to change the file association on the fly. And what that means is when I click the high resolution images, we open the application and the user can be productive. Now the nice thing about the workflows that we're doing here is at any point in time, if I needed to request the rights, the authorization, the yes or no from my line manager or from the financial officer or the purchaser of an application, we could put that very easily as a stop in the workflow. The other thing we can do is set timeouts in the workflow. So for example, if my line manager is away for a week, we can wait for 2 or 3 days, and if there's been no response, then we can go on and ask someone else. So we can ensure that these workflows continue to be progressed and case can be more productive. Hopefully. The other thing that Workspace Manager does is things like automatically create the MAPI profile. So when I go into Outlook here, it's fully configured straight away. I can start sending and receiving email. If I go and send a new email, once again we can automatically populate the Exchange auto signature with the necessary content. So once again, context awareness, I've picked up what office he's coming in from, I've put the correct phone number, fax number in place, and obviously his job title. And once again, you can see at the moment there's a question mark next to the mobile phone number. And that's because that's a field that we didn't populate in the HR system when Case joined the organisation. Perhaps there was an assumption made that he was going to bring his own mobile phone with him, and we didn't know the number at that point in time. So once again, another great example that we can use here for self-service. I can look at services available for me, I can request to change the mobile number, and after a few seconds we're going to come back with a pending action. And the pending action that will come back is obviously a request for more information from the user. Please enter your mobile phone number here. Okay. And what we'll do is populate this information into a runbook in Automation Manager and go off and put the necessary info in the right place. That could be a HR system, it could be straight into Active Directory, but the important thing with automation here is independence. We can plug into anything. If we can't plug into it out of the box, we've got Luca who can do the work for you, right?
Absolutely.
Once the information has been run in the back-end runbook, we're going to do once again an update on the user's workspace. So there's no need for my users to log off and back on again. And the very next time that we run the Outlook application, and go to send a new email, you can see that we've populated the mobile form automatically. So this is one of the benefits of what we're doing here at RES right now. We're looking together with consultant partners, together with end users at help desk calls. Let's look at the volume of help desk calls and let's eradicate them. One by one, let's go through what those top 10 calls are and let's stop them from happening in the future. So we're unlocking more time for IT departments to start innovating again, spending less time firefighting. If we have a quick look in the Automation Manager console, I'll just run through some of the tasks and queries that are available. So, Automation Manager and Workspace Manager, big advantage with the technologies are their simplicity. So I have a back-end data store which can be SQL, Oracle, DB2, MySQL, SQL Express, SQL Azure. And we have an agent, a client. With Automation Manager, we have a middleman that sits between the two called a dispatcher. And basically that allows us to work in disparate environments where we may have multiple offices. We may have to control, throttle or schedule bandwidth between those. We may have to go outside through VPNs. The dispatcher allows us that flexibility. We can tier the dispatchers up, so we can have multiple dispatchers tiered up. And this allows us to support environments where perhaps we're working independently from the domain. Multi-tenancy is an example. Through the modules that we have built in, let me just open some of them for you now.
Always start at the bottom. Then you don't have to scroll.
Good idea. So, as I said, there's around about 150 canned tasks and queries. So, you know, from simple stuff here like invoking MSI files or setups, to more complex stuff like our integration with Microsoft System Center Config Manager. Through Config Manager, we can allow organizations to leverage the investment that they've already made in Config Manager. An organization may have already gone through the pain of packaging applications. So what we can do with Automation Manager is leverage that investment, and by dovetailing Automation Manager into Config Manager, we can take away a lot of the question marks. A question mark with Config Manager is what's out there. Did it work? When did it work? If it didn't work, what didn't it work on? And this is some of the nice areas that really Automation Manager fully complements Config Manager. We can get the agent to do the work. We've got a very nice scheduling functionality. We can retry a job that's failed. We've got conditions in evaluators built into the technology to give us more flexibility than Config Manager would have right out the box. Give you a quick idea of some of the easy way in the technology works, so the simplicity. If I go down to advanced here, I can have a look at some of the simple queries. So let's just do a couple of queries right now. Let's have a look at the computer inventory. Let's add in system state. So let's have a look at the disk fragmentation. Let's have a quick look at the installed programs, including Microsoft updates. Everything's searchable. So if I wanted to have a look at event logs, I just type in my search and I could query event logs. And once I've gathered my tasks and queries together, we can then run that as a module. And we can run several modules side by side to form projects, and we can run those projects across multiple machines in runbooks. So a very quick and easy process. What does my user see and what does my user get? Nothing, unless you want to bother them. So this is the nice thing about the IT store piece. And this is going through rebranding at the moment. Anyone that's familiar with RES may know of the orchestration piece, which is a plugin for Automation Manager. So service orchestration will start disappearing to be replaced with IT store in the future. What you can see on the user side right now, so let's just go back into a user session. You've got the IT self-service piece down in the sys tray, and the next version of IT store, basically it will be driven through a browser. So through a HTML5 browser, you'll be given a nice, easy to customize view of the IT self-service piece. Now the idea behind IT self-service for us is looking at where consumers are with the App Store. So looking at the App Store mentality and basically bringing that back into the enterprise. With consumerization comes an expectation, and the expectation is, I want. And if IT departments don't fulfill that requirement, then typically the user will find another way. The IT store basically allows us iTunes flexibility, but with all of the controls, regulation that IT departments need to have in place. So there's no question marks anymore. On top of that, we can layer in context awareness. So every instance of the IT store is bespoke for that particular user at that particular point in time. Now typically with iTunes, if I didn't have to pay for anything on iTunes, I would install all of it. Everything on iTunes. And what we're seeing a lot with standard IT stores is if it's there to be installed, then the user will install it, because they don't have to pay for it. So what we're going to see in the immediate future with some of the other IT stores in this space is people selecting everything, and costs for applications, cost for application management temporarily is going to go through the roof until people start reining back this control again. Now with a context-aware IT store, I'm only putting stuff in the IT store that my user qualifies for. So if I'm a member of the marketing team, then I can populate my IT store with content that's applicable. If I'm not a member of the IT team and I want to request something and it's in the IT store, then through the workflow I can ensure that I've put the correct points of authorization in. So I'm not committing to a license cost unless someone's authorized it. And once again, I've got my time and date stamp against who's authorized it, so we can help meet compliance. Now, some of the neat things that we've been working on in previous months are a plugin for Workspace Manager, which helps us in the data space. So we have a Follow Me data solution called RES Hyperdrive. It's on-premise. Once again, it competes, I would say, head-on with Dropbox. But the nice thing about it is all of the clients are covered already. So we have Android, Windows Phone, iOS, BlackBerry even, PC, Mac. There's also a web portal as well. And the agents have actually been developed by an organization that we're working alongside called Nomadesk. And what that means from our perspective is we don't have to take customers, we don't have to take partners through growing pains. You know, these are clients, these are agents that have been out already for a number of years. They're stable. The development team are already experts on these platforms. And what we've done alongside those guys is taken our expertise on back-end systems, on AD integration, on automation, and we've built a very cool Linux appliance back-end to host this stuff. It's on-premise, so we're never going to come up with a data subscription idea. You know, we're not going to get a data center and fill it up with hard disks and start charging it out on a gigabyte per month basis. That's for the customer to do, or it's for you to do in association with the customer. Now what that enables you to do is help customers meet a lot of the compliance objectives. Because the data stays on-premise, it remains under your control. There's never any question mark about ownership of data. There's never any question mark about compliance. There's some really neat technologies built in for collaboration. So we can share hyperdrives with other people that we're working with. We can invite people to collaborate with us. And those collaborators can access data on a read or write basis. We've got full control over the content that they can access. We've integrated into Outlook. So instead of sending large Outlook attachments, you can choose to send a hyperdrive link instead. And the hyperdrive integration will automatically deal with removing an attachment and replacing it with the link. So some really neat things that we thought about carefully in terms of making this an enterprise-ready solution. We're also very conscious of terminal services and VDI. So with Hyperdrive there is a cashless client available. Obviously in a non-persistent VDI image, you don't want to start populating a hyperdrive cache when you're just going to trash that device when you log off. So again, that's something that's been thought about very carefully. Now you've had a very quick glimpse over the last half an hour into what RES are up to at the moment. What I'd like to do now is turn that over to you guys. What would you like to see from RES in the future? Let us know. Case.
Personal certificates.
Okay.
And I saw on the user boards. I don't know if you want to explain the user boards as well.
Yep.
The one from Daniel with the queries for automation management.
Yep. So what we've recently done is introduced a system called User Voice. User Voice is an ideation technology. For anyone not aware of what User Voice is, go and have a look at it. It's a great piece of, well, it's a website, but it's a great tool for software companies, or for any company for that matter. One of the issues that we had at RES was with feature requests, and it was known and loved by customers as being a big black hole. And when I request something, what happens? So with the introduction of User Voice, what it's enabled us to do is work with partners and customers to register feature requests, to register great ideas, and basically you can look at what your peers and what your colleagues are requesting, and if it's been requested already, you can cast a vote. And then if your case, you can get all of your friends in the community together and get everyone to vote on the same thing and start getting your requests further up the list. User Voice has been a great system for us, and what we're doing is expanding it and making it available more and more. So initially it was with early adopters. We have an RSVP community, and what we've done subsequently is opened it up to partners and now as well customers. Is there anything else that you guys would like to see RES looking into in the near future?
I would say mobility, but Benny's here.
No, that's fine. Yeah, I mean, we were talking about that earlier, and I think, whilst RES and AppSense have got similar backgrounds, the two organisations are going in different directions right now, and I think, our hearts are still in workspace management. But we've both got other interests, so I think that's healthy. Exactly. Exactly.
I've got one more.
Go on.
Integration with Microsoft Deployment Toolkit for automation management.
Don't you do that?
Somebody wrote a white paper about that.
Yeah, a smart guy.
Was he? What happened to him then?
He became senior executive.
Yeah, so, a question that comes up a lot with Automation Manager is bare metal. How do I get an OS onto an Automation Manager client? And it's something that we've looked at RES time and time again, and we came to the opinion that it's already a ball that's been rolling for many years. And to be honest, Microsoft now offer it free as part of an operating system. So you can tick the box on your server, and using a nice white paper that Case worked on and worked closely with us on, we can follow through the steps and integrate nicely Microsoft OS deployment with Automation Manager. We're not going to go there in terms of developing anything of our own. I think we're too late on that one.
The tendency is to move the bare metal deployment of OS towards virtual machines rather than use the bare metal as for the hypervisor, and then it's easier to deploy.
But still, I have to deploy an OS to my VM.
Oh yes,
it's the same installation. I don't use templates because I don't I can't keep track of what's happening in my templates. That's the issue with PVS as well. That's why Automation Manager is such a great product, because I can rebuild my PVS images as if new. And that's the same with templates. So yeah, it's easier to deploy a VM on a hypervisor, but still we need to deploy an OS.
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of people use Automation Manager to manage a PVS Gold image. And
for a reason.
It's nice because you've got an audit trail, it's nice because you've got full control. Our sales guys don't like it particularly because you don't have to buy many licenses to manage thousands of Citrix servers. You can get away with just a few licenses, but what it does give you is that very granular control and very good auditing. Absolutely. Yeah. So Luke has been working on integrating Automation Manager, and one of the areas that we thought about discussing here was what we can do with our API. Is there a white paper coming on that?
Yes, it is a white paper. It's ready, actually. The marketing people have to.
Okay, so we're waiting for we're waiting for Luca's Italian to be converted to English. That might take a while, I guess.
Yeah.
But
we expect it to be very popular.
Yeah, I mean one of the things. Yeah, so one of the things that I think a lot of people have asked us for in the past is to be a little bit more open book about what we do with Workspace Manager and Automation Manager. We always had the opinion that if you wanted to integrate with us, come and see us and we'd write something for you. But what we've done recently is made APIs available, and we're a little bit more open now than we ever were. And certainly with Automation Manager, the web API that we've got available and the work we're doing with IT Store will allow us to integrate with many more systems a lot easier. Naturally, it's the plan to do that with all products in the future. But right now with Automation Manager, there's quite a few nice projects that we've been working on. Yep. Yep. So any other areas of interest? Is there any areas of the market that you think RES should be looking at apart from mobile? Any technologies? No? Okay. We're good then. Fine. Yeah, I mean, Mac's an interesting area. It's something that people have been asking us. You go into an organisation for a discussion and you'll always see a C-level member of staff with a MacBook. That's always where it seems to start. What we don't want to do is start managing the workspace of a Mac, because if you look at the reasons why most people have bought a Mac in the past, it's because they like the look and feel of Mac OS. What they don't want is to be locked down and secured the way we do with a Windows desktop. On the flip side though, there is huge value in delivering services to Macs. So with Automation Manager, we've had agents now for Linux. We do a lot of work with IBM. More than half their data center is Linux based rather than Wintel based. So we've got a lot of experience in that space now, and we feel it's probably logical progression, to be honest, to release an Automation Manager agent for Mac OS in the near future. So that's certainly an area that we're looking at. As it stands though, in terms of workspace management, we've got no plans on going there. No, there would be anarchy. Yep. So good stuff. There's a quick overview. We're dressed in orange, apart from Rob, who's the tall grey guy. We're going to be around, obviously, for the rest of the day and tomorrow as well. If you've got any questions, if you want to chat about anything that RES are up to, please come and have a chat. So thank you very much.